Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, every week we do these rewatch shows and we always learn stuff that we didn't see watching the game live, just because we've got kind of weird angles sometimes, and sometimes there's stuff you just can't see. I don't ever remember a game, and I don't think it felt like this during the game, but I don't ever remember a game where it felt like if you could, you know how they have those like win probability graphs and they'll go up and down. If you had those and you could have them change in the middle of plays, I don't know that I ever remember one with such dramatic swings in the middle of plays before. You know, Will Howard is going into the end zone. He's about to score. Ohio State's about to be on a 21-0 run. They're about to basically put the game away, and he's 1 yard away and he fumbles and Penn State gets the ball back. And then Penn State's about to take the lead right before halftime, and Davison Igbinosun makes the most insane interception in the end zone. And Jeremiah Smith is wide open and he's about to have a catch for a long touchdown to really put the game away, and then it's incomplete. And then, Quinshon Judkins has fumbled, and Penn State's running it back to take the lead, and nope, he didn't catch it. Just in the middle of plays, you'd have these 180-degree swings, like over and over and over again. That was a crazy game.
Yeah, I'll give you another one. The fourth down pass for Ohio State when Will Howard comes out of the bootleg and Abdul Carter's right there waiting for him. And it's like, well, this play's over. And then it's not. And then he gets away and he throws it. And, this is going to be completion. And then it's not. And then it is. And then it's not. And then it finally was. And even rewatching it, and as Gus Johnson is, it's a catch. Is it? Just the inflections of his voice going right along the lines of that win probability chart. It was, there were plays all over the place that could have been made, almost were made, sometimes were made. And it was fun time all around. I'll just start right now. This is neither here nor there so much, and then we can get into the real football aspect of it. The Ohio State crowd, there was not a lot because they didn't get a lot of tickets, but you could hear them on the big plays in the broadcast, and I'm sure you could hear it down on the field there. So kudos to the Buckeye fans, because they were at the top of the stadium and then interspersed, no big chunks of fans, just 2 here and 4 here and then 1 over there. And you got random dotted Buckeye fans in the black stripe portion of the blue stripe portion of the stadium as they did their helmet stripe game. So kudos to the Buckeye fans that travel. But as we always say, the traveling fans are the loudest fans. And if you could fill Ohio Stadium with traveling fans, that place should be the toughest place to play in America.
Yeah, the crowd was definitely loud, and the Penn State crowd was very loud at the beginning of the game, and just sort of we talked about this a little in the postgame show, but they just got a little quieter after, throughout the game, and they were not as consistently loud because you could just sort of feel oh man, here it comes. So you could just sort of feel that among the crowd, and watching all those dramatic swings and all those almost what ifs. Oh, if he had caught this touchdown right before halftime, if only they had not run into the line 3 times, if they had used the fact that Tyler Warren had, 2 huge plays right before that, and they had used him at some point in some way in the goal line formation. You can feel that this is exactly the type of game that is specifically engineered to drive Penn State fans absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. You had the James Franklin clock management stuff right before halftime. It was just like, we talked on the postgame show about how that win ticked all the boxes for Ohio State fans in terms of stuff they wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
It ticked all the boxes for Penn State fans in terms of the stuff that drives them absolutely nuts about James Franklin and that program right now. So yeah, you said it was a fun game, and I think that was true for a certain subset of a population, but not necessarily the rest of the population. It was a dramatic game. It was an exciting game. It was probably not a fun game for a lot of people. Some people that I think it might have been a more fun game for than we might have expected. The Ohio State offensive line, who probably are greatly enjoying the film rewatch, I think, in a week that I thought there was going to be a little bit of a question. I think after the game, we felt like they were pretty good and did the stuff that you really wanted to see. And it went from, this is an enormous question mark that's going to really maybe help determine how this game goes, to they won the game when they really had to. There were issues. One thing I was most interested in going back and watching was, okay, when there was pressure on Donovan Jackson's side, how often did he have someone else? And the answer was basically never. It was I think there were like 3 times that they were really, really significant pass rushes from Jackson's side. All 3 of them were obvious passing situations, and none of them did he have help. So to me, that's on the coaching staff, not on Jackson. I don't know if they thought like, well, we're getting away with it so far. Let's see if we can get away with it now. And the answer was no. And that's fine. Like now, so now you can't do that. So take that into account. But they were creative in terms of helping him out. There was one point when the long throw back to Carnell Tate, I think they had someone come in, and one of the running backs, I think, had a nice block there. The one on, I think the long one to Jeremiah Smith, I think it was maybe even Carnell Tate
came in and helped with a block there, or Emeka Ibuka. So one of the receivers, I think, came in and helped Jackson with a block. Like, you don't need to have two offensive linemen on one guy. You just give him a little help so he doesn't have to cheat one way or the other. That, I think there were lessons to be learned from that. But overall, to me, I mean, we saw the 4 of the 5 offensive linemen were named offensive players of the game. That line on the whole, man, they played well. They got good push when they needed to. That quarterback sneak feels just about automatic right now. They really were getting some good push in the run game and doing a pretty good job for the most part in pass pro, unless you left the guy who's never played tackle on an island, and then he looked like the guy who'd never played tackle and was going up against a really good pass rusher, and that's not a great spot to put someone in.
Yeah, I was surprised at how often they did help him, because you're only going to notice as you're watching this on the fly. If you're not looking for it, you're going to notice the bad plays, and it's like, well, give that guy help, and you're not necessarily noticing how many times he did have somebody over there throughout the game. But it's like Ohio State has these very tight splits on the offensive line, and Abdul Carter's like way outside. So not only does Donovan Jackson have to get back, he's got to be aware of an inside move and things like that. So he did as well as he could, graded out a champion, as evidenced of the one of the co-players of the game. So I think you'll take that. The running game aspect of that left side of the line was awesome, and you can throw in Carson Hinsman in this as well, because I think he did well both against the running the ball and in pass protection, and he was very physical at the point of attack. And you saw over the course of the game where the early runs were towards the right side of the line. Then later in the game, they're like, okay, we've got stuff working on the left side of the line. And for as effective as Abdul Carter is as a pass rusher, Donovan Jackson put him on his back on one of those runs because of, you should. You're a 310-pound offensive lineman. You should be able to put a 245-pound former linebacker on his back against the run. And so they took advantage of those matchups, and really, really impressed with what Hinsman and Jackson were able to do on that left side. I don't even know if the right side of the offensive line played in this game. I was busy watching the left on the rewatch and seeing how they handled everything. And lastly, we mentioned this after the game, but to be able for that line to handle the crowd noise and the circumstances and all of that with no procedure penalties, no illegal snaps, no false starts, was impressive overall for not just Seth McLaughlin as the leader of that group, but for everybody to stay locked in and to be coordinated. It was very, very encouraging effort for what we're going to see moving on. And lastly, I know I said lastly before. Lastly, this time, Tom, somebody asked, I think on the Buckeye Huddle message board, like, when will Ohio State face another guy like Abdul Carter? I don't know Indiana's defense well enough yet. I haven't watched it. Haven't been able to watch really much of Indiana. But we've seen Josiah Stewart at Michigan for 2 years now, and he's a similar kind of pass rusher. He's smaller, he's faster. He's somebody that will probably they'll need to help against when he's matched up with really anybody. But that's another kind of matchup that Ohio State's going to have down the line.
Yeah, but that's 3 weeks down the line at this point. So they've got time to sort of figure it out. You've got time for Donovan Jackson to refine his technique as a tackle, because there's different technique. There's different, a lot of tackle is footwork, and it's different footwork than you have at guard. So you assume that there's probably going to be a little bit of a learning curve there for him, and he's got a couple of weeks to sort of get that straightened out and potentially get a little more comfortable with it. But again, for the first time out, 2 thumbs up. I think that was, as in terms of realistic expectations for how that could have gone and the situations he got put in, that felt like that was about as well as it could have gone. Was it
truly, without grading on a curve, an A+ performance for a tackle? No, but you have to take the circumstances into account. I think that was huge. Carson Hinsman was an absolute mauler on the inside. I had him listed as a whole separate line item, but he absolutely mauled people on the inside. They ran the ball in a way that they have not run the ball against a good defense consistently in a long time. And they did it on that last drive was really when it was like, okay, everyone in the stadium knows you're going to run it. This is the stuff that Justin Frye's been talking about since he got to Ohio State. This is the stuff that Ryan Day's been talking about for years. If it's 3rd and 2 and everyone in the stadium knows you're running the ball, can you run the ball? And they did. And they picked it up, and they picked it up consistently. Hinsman played great. McLaughlin played great. Josh Fryer had a really good game at right tackle. I'm with you. I basically didn't notice Josh Fryer for most of the game. The only time I saw anything really negative out of him was one of the ones where Carter got a sack and Fryer had also kind of gotten pushed back into the pocket a little bit. But other than that, if you're a tackle and I don't notice you, it's like being a long snapper. If I don't notice you, if I forget you're out there, you're doing your job. And Fryer felt like he was doing his job. I know Tager Shabola was not graded as a champion, I guess, because he wasn't listed as one of the players of the game, but it didn't feel like he had a terrible game either. He's had some individual bad plays during the course of the season, but I didn't see anything super glaring from him. I'll be interested to talk to Ross Fulton a little later on this week and maybe see if there was something I didn't see or something that I missed or whatever. But I didn't think that he had super glaring issues. And like you said, they were able to run the ball on both sides of the line throughout the game. And Howard didn't have to, run for his life all that often. There were a few, but there weren't too many. They were able to pass efficiently. They were able to run efficiently. That tells me the offensive line did its job.
Yeah, I'm just looking over past games to see what the last time they ran like this against a ranked opponent. And I mean, they went for 141 yards against Oregon. That was 4.3 yards per carry. This is 4.4 yards per carry. But this felt a lot different because you don't have the 53-yarder from Travion Henderson like you did against Oregon. Last year they didn't do anything like this. 2022, no big games. I mean, 143 yards against Michigan, 4.9 yards per carry, but in a loss. 172 yards against Notre Dame. They finished the season 18th ranked. So it has been a while. Probably have to go back, and not probably, I mean, you'd have to go back to the Justin Fields time, the times, unless you want to count the Michigan State game in 2021 where Ohio State just did whatever they wanted. And I don't know how fair that would be to compare it to anything they're doing today. So yeah, kudos to the offensive line. Certainly did their jobs and more. And the future is alive. Let's just say that. I won't say bright. It's just alive. There's still a future. Good job. How about Davison Igbinosun, or as Gus would call him, Davison Igbinosun? He was physical as he always is, but in a good way. I didn't see the hold that he got called for when he gave up a completion, which the coverage was there. And kudos to all of the coverage on a lot of these pinpoint passes for the Buckeyes, whether it's Lathan Ransom and Tyler Warren or whatever. Davison Igbinosun was right there in coverage, solid in run support. And of course the interception, which as it happened, so you couldn't see anything because that was like right below us from the press box. You got people on the sidelines, can't see what's happening. The crowd explodes, and then there's like maybe an incompletion signal from the ref. And then you start seeing the Ohio State sideline celebrating like they know something nobody else knows. And even Ryan Day at one point in there is like, has his arms up and he's like pointing the other way. And I'm like, was there an interception here somewhere that nobody told us about? And then you watch the replay and the game itself, and you see like Davison Igbinosun come up. I don't know if it's Jermaine Matthews over there, Denzel Burke, and they're celebrating. And like Davison Igbinosun is telling the ref, like, hey, I caught this. And the ref's like, calm down. We'll look. Like, just chill out. We've got technology. We'll take a look. And he was very adamant. He knew, or he believed he knew that he got it. So overall, very, very good game for him. You're going to get those flags from him as they are, but overall, solid in run support, solid against the pass. Had one pass break up early downfield on a play that kind of calmed the crowd down as well. So good game from him. And just he knew he caught it, and the refs were like, relax, we'll check.
What are the odds we're going to blow another replay review? Come on. How many times do you think we're going to do that in one season? Come on. Yeah, that was one that I had a terrible angle on. It was the far end of the field, and there were a bunch of Ohio State. He fell out of bounds behind a whole row of people. So it was kind of like there was cheering, and then the cheering sort of calmed down, and then Ohio State people were happy, and it was like, what is going on here? And Jermaine Matthews was out on the field at one point and kind of like waving at the crowd, excitedly. I was like, well, I don't think he's saying to them, I think you're going to be very excited about what's about to happen. So yeah, that was an incredible play. Yeah, Igbinosun had a great play that you mentioned, the PBU on a third down pass earlier in the game. If you get an interception and a really key third down stop out of him, and the only penalty he gets called for is 1 5-yard holding penalty that ended up getting negated because the guy made an incredible catch anyway, and the only long pass he gives up all day is an incredible catch, one-handed back shoulder, tight coverage. That's one of those tip your cap kind of plays. That was the one right before the interception, right before halftime. That's you will take that performance out of him every single day. And he was named one of the silver bullets of the game. He was one of two. The other one, Tony, was Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs also very, very good. That was, you just continue to see him make these just incredibly important plays. And the top line stats were not huge. He finished with 4 tackles, something like that. It was not a huge day for him. He finished with 4 tackles, 4 solo tackles. That was it. 4 tackles. But man, a couple of them were such important plays, and he's just such a sure tackler. He had a tackle on one where Singleton, the running back, got to the edge. He was a give from Warren. They had Tyler Warren playing quarterback, and they put Singleton in motion. Nick Singleton gave it to him. He kind of looked like he was going to get the edge and turn up field, and maybe this turns into a big play, and Downs brings him down for like a 3-yard gain. It was that was one that I'm sure Penn State had thought, okay, we're going to get 15 on this one, and they got 3. That was a big one. And then right after that, there was they threw one to Warren, and Downs is out there in space, makes the tackle on a guy much, much bigger than him in space on third down, forces a field goal. That made it, I think that was the field goal in the third quarter that made it 17-10. But those are 2 really big plays in a row. And with all the other plays that got made and the sacks, the goal line stands, and the interceptions, that stuff kind of got lost. And then if you just look at the stat sheet, it's like, 4 tackles, whatever. I guess he was okay today. But man, when they needed stuff out of him, they really got some impressive stuff out of him in big moments. And it should not get lost. Joel Klatt on the broadcast comping him to Troy Polamalu. That is, for football players of a certain age, that is about as high as praise gets for a safety. So that's something that you should maybe file away in terms of exactly how good is this guy. The answer is pretty darn good.
You even the second play from scrimmage for Penn State, Tyler Warren carries the ball. He's running right up the middle. Caleb Downs is right there to meet him. You're talking 6'6", 260 pounds, Tyler Warren, 6 foot, 205 pounds, Caleb Downs, and he doesn't care. And then that Nick Singleton tackle. Caleb Downs has patented this terrible angle, I'm still going to grab your feet and tackle you type of thing, and he did it in this one. I don't know that there are bad angles. Like he can cut inside. He doesn't have to go around and he can cut people off at the pass, and he's got this knack for just getting like magnet hands to magnet feet and just gets them down. So that was, that's a typical Caleb Downs tackle. When it happens, you're like, oh, I can't see the jersey, but I bet that's Caleb Downs, because you just see this flash. That's why you can't see the numbers. And then the guy goes down. Then it's like, yep, that's Caleb Downs. I'm so shocked. There was a lot of chirping in this time. There's a lot of, I don't know what it was like on the field. There was a lot of talking. So I don't know if that was coming from the Penn State fan or the Penn State players and also the Penn State fans, because the Buckeyes were responding in a lot of ways. You saw early on Drew Aller doing this first down signal, this wind up first down. And I didn't realize that until after the rewatch, because I only noticed it when Will Howard was doing it. And it seemed like Will Howard's were in a response to that one, especially the last one, the last third down run to seal the game, where he really, really wound up. It seemed like there was a response to Aller and Penn State on that one, but we saw players talking back and forth throughout this game, which, it's not atypical, but then also Ohio State fans reacting to the Penn State crowd. So I don't know what they were. I'm sure they were hearing some stuff, but it was interesting to watch, especially as we have seen crowds become more not worried about throwing stuff on the field. I don't know if I'm going to be talking trash to a crowd at any time soon.
Interactive is the word you're looking for, Tony. Interactive, not necessarily in a good way. Yeah, it was an interactive game, fans and players kind of going back and forth. And there, it was a high emotion kind of game and a high stakes game for both of those programs. I saw there was also a new one. We see lots of different celebrations, and I'm a lot of them is, there's this one guy in the NFL who does this, and then all of a sudden everyone in college is doing it. So I don't know where the wind it up and point first down thing came from. That's sort of a variation on the old, the old point, like a rifle first down celebration. There was another one that a bunch of Buckeye players were doing where it was like a bird flapping its wings or something like that. Like, I don't know. Did Penn State football get sent to heaven? Is that what you're doing? I don't know. But yeah, maybe it was Go Birds. I don't know. They're in Pennsylvania. Yeah, I saw that enough that I'm like, we need to ask about that at interviews this week, because what is the origin of that celebration? Because that's one I don't remember seeing before, and we saw a bunch on Saturday.
Did you see the? I know you're not an NFL person, so there's a new touchdown celebration going on that began. I don't know if it began, but it caught on this past week with an Incarnate Word receiver who scores and then runs and then stands on his head and then just falls over. And then like 2 NFL players did that this week as well. And I think it's fantastic for an Incarnate Word football player to start getting trends going, because that's going to be an immediate penalty. It was for him. It'll be an immediate penalty when we see, Jeremiah Smith doing it, or Carnell Tate, or whomever. The coach is already saying, please don't do this. It's going to be, we'll be kicking off from the 20. We don't need it. But I thought that was interesting.
Very disappointed that the Australian breakdancing celebration has not caught on at either the college or NFL levels for whatever reason. I don't know. Like, I'm sure you can't do the Turkish pistol guy celebration, because that'll be, your shooting. It was an LSU player. There was someone who earlier in the year that got a 15-yarder for
no, and
miming a machine gun.
Dylan Stewart got it a couple times as well, or at least he was doing it, like mimicking brandishing of a firearm or something like that. And it's just not okay.
Yeah. All right, let's see. How about this one? We talked a little bit about the touchdown to Brandon Inniss on the postgame show, but one of the things that I can't see, a lot of times, whatever's going on in the backfield from where I am, I'm kneeling behind the end zone. I have a defensive line and offensive line, usually some linebackers and secondary guys between me and the quarterback. So unless there's a clear lane, a lot of times what is happening in the backfield is a mystery to me until I get to go back and watch the game afterwards. That was a great play because they set it up. I talked on the postgame show about how they sort of like signaled, hey, look over here on the pick 6 when they stacked Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith. And it's like, well, something's going to happen over here. Better keep an eye on it. This was like the exact opposite of that. That was, they had out Jaden Ballard, Brandon Inniss, and Bryson Rogers as your wide receivers. So in my head, I see those guys out there and I'm like, okay, run play. And they ran. I didn't see the fake toss, but I saw, it happened, obviously. Fake toss to Travion Henderson going right. You see the whole Penn State defense just over to that side of the field, and Brandon Inniss is running across the other way and got, just was wide open and just about walked into the end zone. And during the game, I thought, how the heck did they do that? But that was creative use of personnel to kind of tip like, hey, if you're throwing a fade in the end zone, you're not taking Jeremiah Smith off the field for Jaden Ballard and Bryson Rogers. You're keeping your first string wide receivers out there. So, personnel, formation, the initial play action of it all, like everything suggested run to the right, and then nope, so actually pass to the left. And that was just very creative use of personnel and play design.
to get a guy wide open down in the red zone.
Chip Kelly pulling out, well, actually, on the Penn State defense. Well, actually, we're actually throwing back across to the left side. Yeah, we talked about it after the game, but just seeing, my eyes were on Jaden Ballard, and it's like, wow, Jaden Ballard's playing. And then you see Brandon Innes scores, like, wow, Brandon Innes was playing. Then you see like Bryson Rogers celebrating, and then you're like, what the heck is going on here? And it was a fantastic job to like pretend that you're just getting your starters a rest. And then that's, I'm sure, what the defense thought. And then, of course, Ohio State running to the short side of the field. Of course, why wouldn't they? Because that's what they do. And everything was pointing towards that. And then it went the other way. And of course, as Brandon Innes told me after the game, I knew I was going to score because they were in man. So everything that they needed from Penn State, they got, and they took advantage of it. That's what you need from your coordinators. How about this one, Tom? As I scanned through, they played Cody Simon a lot near the line of scrimmage, whether it was, mugged up or as a kind of an edge Sam, just leverage type of person. And he was really effective all over the place, and 9 tackles on a day, a sack. He's continued to play well. And I wonder if it's because he's not in space as much at times, and maybe he's able to attack more. The blitzing overall has become more effective, and maybe that's because of what the defensive line is doing as well. But if they can continue to move him around, and you've got Sonny, I thought, played one of his best games. He's really physical in there as well. Those two guys doing what they need to do. Jordan Hancock is that third linebacker, sort of, if you want, made some plays near the line of scrimmage, came in on a blitz and stopped a run in there. And it is interesting. We're not seeing Arvell Reese is still playing, but the plays aren't necessarily there anymore. And that also tells me that other people are making them, which is good. You don't need an unproven sophomore to be making all of these plays. Not unlike Steel Chambers. When he moved to linebacker initially, he was making a bunch of plays, and it's like, shouldn't your veterans be making plays? And I think that's what's happening now for the Buckeyes as well. So good on the linebackers continuing to improve, because this is going to be a tough game for the linebackers in terms of just all of the moving parts and dealing with a lineman in motion, like getting a up to speed more faster than a pulling guard can. You've got this fly guard, if you will, coming to fill a hole, and then your face is right there trying to handle that. So the linebackers really, really physical in this one. And you saw the results because they limited the runs. If you can just stop the tight end from running the ball successfully against you, I think you're going to be pretty okay.
Well, they were just very disciplined. It was a very disciplined, solid, good, well-rounded, all-around game from the whole back seven. And the secondary, really, there were no major complaints for the secondary. The linebackers have been a concern at a bunch of times this year, and it felt like that was probably the best that Styles and Simon have both played all season long. One of the plays I had written down to talk about was Penn State, they're going to do all this weird crap to just sort of mess with you. They ran out of basically a swinging gate formation where they had the whole offensive line split way off to one side, and just, maybe one lineman or two linemen there, and snap the ball. And I think it was Tyler Warren is playing quarterback at that point, and handed it to Nick Singleton. And this is one where, again, you put this in the game plan and you're thinking, okay, 15, 20 yards, no problem. We're going to confuse them. They got 7, which is okay. Like, it set them up for, I think, a second and short, but you didn't get 15. You didn't get 20. You didn't go for 60. It went for 7. And that's, you can only do that so many times before people adjust. That's one of those things that you probably haven't shown a whole lot this season. So it's probably not something Ohio State practiced for a ton, because there's only so many times, there's only so many reps and only so many hours during the week to be able to practice for stuff. That's one where Penn State's counting on catching you off guard and people getting confused and losing their assignments. And they didn't. And that was just one little microcosm. But yeah, Cody Simon was close to the line of scrimmage a bunch. You saw him make a bunch of really, good, solid tackles. It was just really how many missed tackles did they have during the course of the game? I mean, I didn't keep track, but it didn't feel like very many. And Penn State's got some big, matchup issue guys. And, the running backs both ran for less than 3 yards per carry. Tyler Warren, a big matchup guy. He had the one long run, in that last Penn State drive, but I don't know that it was a missed tackle. That was just kind of, he got outside. they tackled well, they played well. Yeah, you're going to give up a couple long plays here and there, but really it was a really well played, organized game all around. And we just talked about the linebackers in the secondary, so okay, we have to give the defensive line their flowers too.
Mm-hmm.
A goal line stand when Tyleik Williams is out, that is impressive. Hero Canu's in there, and Caden McDonald's in there, and I saw Edric Houston in the game earlier on the interior of the defense. It was Edric Houston and Caden McDonald inside on one of the drives earlier, and that's deeper and more creative rotations than we've seen out of Larry Johnson and the defensive coaching staff at the defensive line spots over the course of the season. You saw more Kenyatta Jackson. It felt like some of the things that people have been kind of irritated by, and some of the stuff that's probably been hurting them to a certain degree in the fourth quarters of games, got rectified. You're playing a little bit, a deeper rotation, so your guys are a little fresher at the end of the season and the end of the game, and you end up with better results. And boy, speaking of things that are going to drive Penn State fans insane, you have like a 25 or 30 yard pass to Tyler Warren, then you have a 30-yard run by Tyler Warren, and then you don't put him back at quarterback again. You don't hand the ball to him. You don't man, oh man. If that had happened to Ohio State, if Ohio State had Jeremiah Smith has a long run and a long catch, and then you have 4 downs in the red zone, and you don't look his way once, I think people might it would be, Tony, in a moment like that, be in the torches and pitchforks business, because that's where the money is.
Yeah. The defensive line you're talking about, Caden McDonald, the third down on the last goal line drive, he just destroyed everything in the middle. When Tyleik Williams went down, as I recall it from watching from the press box, Jason Moore went into the game, and then they sent Edric Houston in instead. And he was playing before that as well at 3-tech, and not in the rushman package. So to me, he is now officially a 3-tech. Now he can move back to defensive end. We've seen John Simon go from tackle to end. We've seen Jayshon Cornell go from end to tackle to end to tackle. So I'm not saying he's there forever. I'm saying he's there right now. And it's impressive that he's the guy they turned to when Tyleik Williams went down. I think that's, at least some of the time, I think that's notable. 18 carries for 42 yards from Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. And that's not just the linebackers. That's everybody doing that. That's the defensive line. Long carry of just 7 yards for the two of them, which I think was the swinging gate that you're talking about, that fluke play. Nick Singleton, 6 for 15, long of 4. Katron Allen, 12 of 27, long of 7. They shut those guys down. They left no room for them to run. And, I don't know how, I was going to say, I don't know how creative they were in trying to get them more yards, but we just talked about how they, the swinging gate aspect of things didn't really work either. So overall, just a solid disciplined day from the defense, which we talked about before. They had to do. They had to be disciplined because of all of the moving parts, and they were. I like, I'm just going to run through some of the last ones I have. I like the throwing to the running backs and the flats, the swing passes. I thought that was good. The misdirections were more effective this week because they had some. I don't know that they had too many the week before, so that was great. How about, now, I don't know how many people are going to understand this reference, Tom. I know you probably will. And this is something I've noticed a little bit recently, but the Fox hockey puck outline of a random player, have they just, it's not great looking. It looks like the old technology from 1993, 30 years ago, where they tried to put hockey on network television. And people are like, well, yeah, but you can't see the puck. And Fox is like, ha, ha, ha. That's what you think. We're going to put a blue glowing dot over the puck throughout the whole time, so you'll know where it is. You can just look for the blue glowing dot. And it didn't last long. People hated it. And so they were like, you know what? Let's not get rid of this technology. We're going to bring it back at some point. And now they've done it with, let's use this instead of, can we turn this circle into just a random outline? And it's like with Photoshop now, you can do a lot of stuff. And so I'm sure they just paired the Photoshop with the 1993 fuzzy technology of a highlighted color, and boom, now they can outline Ty Hamilton as he tries to stop the run. It's fantastic.
I think maybe even go further. and do the fire circle that you see on kids' Huddle videos. Maybe add some like house music or trap music behind. I'm spitballing here, but yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, the Fox Hockey Glow Puck that went away, and it was not because it was too popular. So yeah, I'm not sure that's one that needed to come back.
Last one for me. I know people are often like, where was Jack Sawyer? Where's Jack Sawyer? Jack Sawyer was forcing some early throws in this game as well. So I thought he was, you'd love for him to get to the quarterback, but he was still, I thought, pretty effective in forcing a lot of early throws because Drew Aller did not have much, a lot of time to just stand back there and find a receiver. He was getting pressured from all sides, and Ohio State continuing to add in some odd fronts. There weren't a lot, but they did have some 3-man fronts in there with some linebackers in there as well. So you can't just go in assuming you're always going to get the 4-man front, which is what Ryan Day was, I'd say, begging for, but demanding after that Oregon game.
And my last two things, one was actually about Drew Aller. I did not notice that he lost the knee brace partway through. I don't know if that was like a stage prop at the beginning of the game to, please, sir, I can't run the football. Don't tackle me. Don't mind me at all. He might have been doing the Tiny Tim thing. I'm not sure. But yeah, the knee brace was gone by the second half. So either it wasn't necessary or it was some elaborate stagecraft to set up a lot of the early Drew Aller running. Thought that was interesting. Hadn't noticed that during the game. And then one more thing. We talked a bunch about Abdul Carter and, reps where he got the best of Donovan Jackson. There was a 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3 relatively early in the game where Abdul Carter jumped off sides and Donovan Jackson, being a veteran, just went, well, if I stand up and point at him, they're going to have to stop play because then I'm out of my stance and he's very obviously offside. So thank you for the free first down. That was just, he's new at left tackle, but he's not new to football. And that was just a really smart veteran play.
I thought Will Howard also did a good job in helping in getting rid of the ball or stepping up into the pocket away from that rush because it's not like on those pass rushes that Donovan Jackson is completely stoning Abdul Carter. Even when Carter isn't getting to the quarterback, he's still making progress. And so I thought Will Howard did a good job of getting out of there and avoiding that and just doing what he was supposed to do. The very last thing, Tom, you mentioned that, you don't know if this is really a fun time for the Penn State fans. And to me, it's like going to see a concert and hating all of the hits and hoping they just play the new stuff. Like, why is Penn State always playing the hits against Ohio State? Can't they they dropped a new album last week. Can't we hear the new stuff? Can't we hear this year's music? Why do we always have to hear the old stuff? And it's unlike any other kind of concert you go where, you want to hear the hits. Penn State fans, they don't want to hear the hits. They want to hear the new stuff. And maybe in the playoffs. It won't be this year.
Yeah, you weren't sure if you were going to get the full James Franklin, and then boom, 5 minutes left in the game, goal line situation, and just what are you doing? Just boom, Moon River, second encore. Didn't think he was going to do it. There it is. Wow, James Franklin playing all of the hits. Yeah, this has to be the most frustrating. Like they're quite possibly going to go 11-1. Make the college football playoff for the first time, and it will be, once again, a bull market for torches and pitchforks in Penn State because it is just the one thing they cannot do. They just cannot ever get over this one particular hump, and it just, once again, nope, not quite. Maybe next year.
It's like the James Franklin band. Everybody they leave the stage after the end of the third quarter, and the crowd cheers them back on. It's like, let's go for the final encore. And it's just Franklin comes out with an acoustic guitar and one spotlight, and the crowd's like, damn it. Here we go with this crap again. And so, boom, that's what happened. That'll do it for us. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up, hit the bell to be notified, subscribe to the channel if you have not. And of course, continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Join up, become a premium member. Say hey to us there on the Buckeye Huddle message board. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.